Rimuru, the Hero Copycat by RimuruEdward6. Chapter 24. All for one paw. As I observed the monitor, my gaze locked onto Rimuru and her defiant smirk. Something unexpected occurred. The figures around her, Hawks, All Might, and even my defected operatives, stiffened. Their movements halted abruptly, as if an invisible hand had gripped them and rendered them immobile. They were frozen. Even the ever-dynamic Hawks, with his constant twitch of feathers, stood still, his expression frozen in mid-concentration. All Might, the embodiment of unyielding resolve, remained locked in place, his fist half raised. Rimuru, however, moved freely, stepping through the still figures with a casual ease. My eyes narrowed, my mind racing to comprehend what I was seeing. "What is this?" I murmured, leaning closer to the screen. The suppression devices couldn't have malfunctioned, those systems were redundant and layered. This was something else entirely. Rimuru's golden eyes glinted as she walked toward the nearest camera, her expression calm and deliberate. She tilted her head slightly, as if she knew I was watching. "Do you see it now, all for one?" Her voice echoed through the chamber, carried by my compromised speakers. "The difference between us." I clenched my fists, irritation simmering beneath my otherwise composed exterior. "You've done something new," I said aloud, speaking to the image of her on the screen. "Another quirk. One I didn't anticipate." She smiled faintly, her gaze steady. "Close," she said, her voice calm and confident. "It's not a new quirk, it's a deeper understanding of an old one." I felt a flicker of irritation mixed with intrigue. "You've expanded your abilities," I murmured, more to myself than to her. She raised her hand, gesturing to the frozen figures around her. "They're not hurt," she said. "Just paused. It's a side effect of digging deeper, of refining what I can do. Call it precision control." I gritted my teeth, my mind racing to analyze her words. She had refined her mastery of quirks to such an extent that she could manipulate time, space, or perception on this scale. "Impressive," I said softly, my voice laced with both irritation and admiration. "You continue to evolve, Rimuru. But even this has its limits." Her smirk widened, and for a moment, I saw the fire in her golden eyes burn even brighter. "Maybe," she said, turning away from the camera. "But you'll have to catch me to find out." With that, she walked out of frame, leaving the frozen figures and a silent challenge in her wake. I stood in the stillness of my chamber, the monitors flickering as her actions replayed in my mind. "She's become more than a match," I admitted quietly, a slow smile spreading across my face. "But even the strongest must fall eventually." Her abilities were impressive, yes, but they weren't unstoppable. The game wasn't over. Not yet. Her voice echoed through the chamber once more, calm and deliberate, yet dripping with the confidence that had come to define her. "I'll take my hero co-workers and call it a day," she said, her tone light, as if the chaos she had caused was merely a minor inconvenience. "But don't worry, all for one, I will always be watching." I clenched my fists, the edges of my smile tightening as her words lingered in the air. She spoke as though she had already won, as though her escape and her newfound abilities placed her beyond my reach. The monitor flickered, and for a brief moment, I caught a glimpse of her walking away with Hawks and All Might, the latter finally regaining his movement, his towering frame as imposing as ever. Hawks flanked her, his feathers bristling with readiness, while Rimuru led the way, her steps unhurried, her expression calm. She had disrupted my plans, escaped my grasp, and left my stronghold in disarray. And yet, her parting words carried a weight that both irritated and intrigued me. "Always watching." I exhaled slowly, the tension in my chest transforming into a cold determination. "You've grown bold, Rimuru," I murmured, my voice low and sharp. "But watching is not enough. Sooner or later, you will have to act. And when you do." I turned away from the monitors, the faint flicker of static behind me as I stepped into the shadows of my chamber. "I will be ready." Her ability to orchestrate such a precise and audacious escape was remarkable, yes, but it also revealed much about her limits. For all her power and cleverness, she still had weaknesses I would uncover and exploit. "I will always be watching too, my dear," I thought, my lips curling into a slow, deliberate smile. "And when the time comes, I will remind you who truly holds the power." The game continued, and I was more than ready for the next move. Hawk's paw. The moment we were out of sight, clear of the industrial facility and its lingering chaos, I felt the tension ease ever so slightly. All Might walked ahead, his imposing frame leading the way, but my eyes were fixed on Rimuru. She was keeping pace, but barely. Her steps were slower, her shoulders trembling just enough for me to notice. And then, without warning, she collapsed. "Rimuru!" I shouted, catching her before she hit the ground. Her body was limp, her silver hair falling over her face as I carefully lowered her to the ground. Her golden eyes were half closed, flickering with exhaustion. She was mumbling, her words slurred but audible. "Might have overdone it a bit. Overdone it," I muttered, my heart racing. "You pushed yourself way too far, Rimuru." All Might turned back, his expression shifting from resolve to concern as he crouched beside us. "Hawks, is she?" "She's out cold," I said, keeping my voice steady despite the worry clawing at me. "Probably burned through too much energy using her quirks. Whatever she did in there, it wasn't easy." All Might nodded solemnly. "She saved herself, and us. But it looks like it came at a cost." I brushed a stray strand of hair from her face, her breathing shallow but steady. "You always push yourself too hard," I muttered, shaking my head. Her mumbling continued, barely audible now. "Always, watching, can't stop." I clenched my jaw, the weight of her words settling over me. She wasn't just fighting all for one, she was fighting herself, her limits, her need to stay 10 steps ahead of everyone else. "We need to get her somewhere safe," I said, standing with Rimuru cradled in my arms. "She's not going to recover out here." All Might nodded. "I know a place. Let's move quickly." As we took off, I couldn't help but glance down at her, her usually confident expression replaced by one of vulnerability. "You did good, Rimuru," I whispered. "But you're not doing this alone anymore. Not while I'm around." For now, she was safe. But I knew her well enough to know this was far from the end of her fight. As we moved to a safe location, All Might leading the way, I noticed something sticking out of Rimuru's pocket. A small, folded piece of paper, barely visible against the fabric of her jacket. Carefully, I shifted her in my arms and pulled it out. The handwriting was unmistakably hers, neat, deliberate, and as calculated as everything she did. Unfolding it, I quickly scanned the note. "Used a quirk to bypass the limit of suppression, but that quirk has a big drawback. Once it's no longer needed, all the energy used during the duration is taken again at once." My heart sank as the words hit me. "Of course," I muttered under my breath. "Rimuru, you genius idiot." All Might glanced back at me. "What's that?" I held up the note briefly before tucking it back into her pocket. "A little explanation," I said grimly. "She used a quirk to override the suppression field, but it came at a cost. The second she didn't need it anymore, all the energy she burned through hit her at once." All Might frowned, his expression darkening. "She forced herself beyond her limits." "Yeah," I said, tightening my grip on her unconscious form. "And now she's paying for it." The realization made me sick. She'd pulled off an impossible escape, defying All for One and his suppression devices, but it had come at a massive personal cost. This wasn't just exhaustion, it was the backlash of a quirk designed to extract every ounce of energy she had. "You didn't have to go this far," I muttered, my voice barely audible. "You're not alone, Rimuru. You don't have to carry this weight by yourself." As we reached the safe house, I laid her down carefully, her breathing still shallow but steady. All Might watched silently, his expression a mix of admiration and concern. "She's strong," he said quietly. "Stronger than most. But even the strongest can fall if they push themselves too hard." I nodded, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Yeah, she's strong. But she's also reckless when it comes to protecting the people she cares about." The note weighed heavy on my mind. She had known the risks, and she had taken them anyway. Not because she wanted to, but because she thought she had no choice. "Well, guess what, Rimuru?" I said softly, my voice steady with determination. "You're not doing this alone anymore. We're in this together, whether you like it or not." I folded the note and tucked it into her pocket again, a silent promise to myself that I wouldn't let her take risks like this without backup. She wasn't just fighting for herself, she was fighting for all of us. And I wasn't about to let her fight alone. Chapter 25. All for One POV. The last functioning monitor in my chamber displayed a grainy feed of Rimuru, Hawks, and All Might retreating from the facility. My frustration simmered as I watched her limp frame carried in Hawk's arms. Then, she collapsed. Her body went slack, her head lolling to the side as Hawks knelt to catch her. All Might turned, his expression shifting to concern, and they quickly moved to help her. But it wasn't her collapse that caught my attention, it was the small piece of paper sticking out of her pocket. I leaned closer, my eyes narrowing as I analyzed every detail. Hawks had noticed it, pulling it from her jacket, but the camera angle didn't allow me to see what was written. Still, it didn't matter. The paper was a message, that much was clear. And the timing of her collapse was too convenient. My mind raced, piecing together the possibilities. Her display of defiance, the incredible use of multiple quirks under suppression, and now this, a dramatic collapse in front of her allies, perfectly framing her as a hero who had pushed herself beyond her limits. Clever, I murmured, a slow smile curling across my lips. Very clever. The note was no doubt an explanation, a crafted excuse for her sudden collapse. It would draw attention away from the truth of her abilities, reinforcing the idea that she had overexerted herself due to a loophole in the suppression devices. But I saw through it. This wasn't exhaustion, I said softly, my voice filled with cold certainty. This was theater, a calculated move to mask the true extent of her power. Her collapse served a dual purpose. It not only solidified her image as a hero willing to sacrifice everything, but it also eliminated any lingering suspicion her allies might have had about the nature of her quirk. Rimuru, I murmured, my tone equal parts admiration and irritation. You've orchestrated this perfectly. But you cannot fool me. Her abilities were evolving, her mastery growing beyond even my expectations. But her willingness to hide her full strength, to play the long game, proved that she still feared exposure. Your power mirrors mine, I continued, my smile widening. But where I dominate, you deceive. And that deception will be your undoing. I turned away from the monitor as the feed went dark, her image burned into my mind. Enjoy your role as the noble hero, Rimuru, I said, my voice low and deliberate. Because when I expose the truth, even your allies will turn against you. Her carefully crafted facade wouldn't hold forever. And when it cracked, I would be there to ensure her fall was as spectacular as her rise. I watched the news feeds with a calculated calm, taking in the headlines and carefully crafted stories as they flooded the airwaves. Hawks and All Might rescue hero copycat from All for One's stronghold. The images that accompanied the story were dramatic, as expected, Hawks carrying Rimuru, unconscious but seemingly victorious, with All Might walking alongside him, a figure of unwavering strength. The narrative painted her as a selfless hero who had pushed herself beyond her limits to defy me. And no one questioned it. The public adored her. The so-called hero copycat was a symbol of resilience, someone who could stand against overwhelming odds and prevail. Her collapse was framed as a testament to her dedication, her willingness to sacrifice everything for the greater good. But none of them knew the truth. None of them knew she was my daughter. I leaned back in my chair, steepling my fingers as the broadcast continued. Her deception was flawless. She had carefully constructed her image, revealing only what she wanted them to see. To them, she was simply a hero, nothing more, nothing less. And so it would seem, I murmured, my voice low and cold. The hero copycat, a savior in the eyes of the public, a beacon of hope. The irony wasn't lost on me. She was playing the part perfectly, using the narrative to shield herself from scrutiny. Her name was on every tongue, her image plastered across every screen, yet no one truly knew her. Not her allies, not the public, not even her closest companions. They only know what you allow them to know, I said softly, my gaze fixed on the screen. But I know the truth, Rimuru. I allowed myself a small, cold smile. You are not their hero. You were created under my guidance. My daughter. The thought stirred equal parts pride and irritation. She had come so far, defied so much, yet she couldn't escape what she truly was. For now, the world celebrated her victory, unaware of the threads of manipulation woven into the narrative. Enjoy your moment, Rimuru, I murmured, my voice laced with quiet menace. But remember this, the truth always has a way of surfacing. And when it does, even the hero copycat will not escape my reach. The game continued, and the pieces were in motion. She could hide behind her mask for now. But masks always cracked. And when hers did, I would be waiting. The news feeds continued their adoration, their carefully edited footage looping again and again. Rimuru, unconscious but victorious, was hailed as a hero who had faced overwhelming odds and survived. The public reveled in the narrative, none of them questioning the deeper truth. I leaned back in my chair, the faint hum of the monitors around me a soothing backdrop to my thoughts. The story was perfect, of course. Too perfect. Whatever would you do when the truth comes to light, my dear? I murmured, my voice soft, almost affectionate. The question hung in the air, unanswered but brimming with possibilities. When the truth inevitably surfaced, when the world discovered that the beloved hero copycat was not just my creation, but my daughter, how would she respond? Would she deny it? Would she embrace it, twisting the narrative to fit her own needs? Or would she fall under the weight of the revelation, her carefully constructed facade shattering in front of the very people she sought to protect? I allowed myself a small smile, a mix of pride and irritation simmering within me. You've done well to keep your secrets, I said quietly, my gaze fixed on the flickering screens. But secrets have a way of unraveling. And when they do, the world you've built will crumble. The thought of her defiance, her brilliance, and her relentless drive brought a rare sense of admiration to my chest. She was a masterpiece, my masterpiece. And yet, she had chosen to use that brilliance against me, turning the tools I had given her into weapons of rebellion. What will you say, Rimuru, I continued, my voice low, when they ask you why you never told them? When they see you not as their hero, but as my daughter? The smile widened, cold and deliberate. Will you try to explain? Will you fight to keep their trust? Or will you finally accept what you are, what you've always been? The truth would come to light. It always did. And when that moment came, when the world turned its eyes on her, the question would no longer be whether she could stand against me. It would be whether she could stand at all. Whatever you choose, my dear, I murmured, my tone tinged with menace, know this, I will be watching. Always. The game continued, but the endgame was drawing nearer. And when the truth emerged, it wouldn't just be a revelation. It would be her reckoning.